Hey guys, hoping all is well with everyone. So in this video we're going to be continuing our read along of the Secret Zoo Raids and Rescues, and we're going to be starting today with chapter 9. But just as a quick recap, in chapter 8 we kind of left off where Evie was instructed as the leader of the Spectres to kind of teach the scouts how to ghost and kind of how to be more concealed and hidden in their upcoming missions. So that was kind of what happened last chapter. So we're going to jump into chapter 9 today. Chapter 9, Peril at Penguin Palace. "We're headed to Penguin Palace," Evie told the scouts as she ghosted herself. "I want to see if you guys can make it all the way around the exhibit without getting spotted." Penguin Palace was home to a huge four-sided aquarium, glass walls reaching from the floor to the ceiling. In the aquarium was a mass of land topped with ice, a narrow channel of water surrounding the island, providing a place for the penguins to swim. "Shouldn't be too tough," Megan said. "Not if we stay to the back of the building." Evie said, "The only ones at the back are going to be us, the Spectres. The four of you are going to get as close as you can to the visitors. I'm talking inches. It'll be a great test to see how well you can stay ghosted." "But..." "No buts, kids," Evie said. "Now, ghost up and follow me." "How?" Megan asked. "We can't even see you." "Follow my voice. If I'm not able to talk, I'll mark myself from time to time." "Huh?" Richie said. "What do you mean, mark yourself?" "That's how we show our positions. We use our surroundings, mostly. Like this." A bright blue butterfly came from a nearby bush with its wings open. It rose several feet and stayed there, unmoving. Then it flew off, a fluttery streak of color across a green backdrop. It had perched on Evie's hand. "Sometimes we'll force a chameleon to move over a few inches." Evie demonstrated, and Noah saw a ghostly swirl of movement somewhere along the place he had guessed her shoulder to be. "Pay attention. You'll see me." Noah nodded and then realized no one could see the gesture. "Let's go," Evie said. When she fell silent, Noah glanced around to figure out which direction she'd gone. "Over here," said Evie. About 10 feet to Noah's left, a leaf broke away from a branch, twirled in the air, then coasted to the ground. Eyes and ears, totally alert at all times. A Spectre is always focused. As Noah headed up the path, he sensed the group around him. Small swirls of air, body heat, and near soundless scratches against the concrete. And he could make out their aromas. Soaps, deodorants, skin. "I smell armpit," Ella said. "Fess up. Who stinks?" A few of the Spectres chuckled. "Richie?" Ella asked. Richie said, "You know, it's nice not to look at her, but can't we do something about her voice?" As they reached the end of the path, the exit door opened a crack, and Noah guessed that Evie was peering out to ensure the coast was clear. Seconds later, it swung outward a few feet and stayed open as the line of Spectres made their way through. Then Noah and the scouts followed. The air was cold, and a flurry of snowflakes dotted the clouded sky. Noah reached up and pulled down the ear flaps on his cap, causing a chameleon to move to a new place. "Stay behind me," Evie said, and Noah saw the small puff of her breath a few feet away. "When we get close to someone, keep quiet and try not to breathe. Ready?" "Hold up," Richie said. What if I gotta pee?" After a few seconds, Evie's voice rose into the silence. "Are you serious?" "I'm just saying. I spent some time at the drinking fountain today." "Stay out of the bathroom. Too risky. Find a bush." "I'm not worried about that." "Then what's the problem?" "Well, the chameleons, they crawl around you, you know, and if I have to pull down my pants..." A smack sounded, and Richie finished his sentence with, "Ow!" "Seriously? Alice said. "With all that's at stake, you're worried about that?" "I'm not worried," Richie shot back. "I'm just concerned. They have claws, you know. The last thing I need is—" "Follow me and stay close," Evie interrupted. "With this snow, it'll be easy to mark me." Noah quickly found out what she was referring to. Falling snowflakes traced the invisible curves of her body. Same with the other specters and scouts. The effect in the snowfall was so subtle that Noah wouldn't have had noticed that he had not been looking for it. Evie turned down a path, avoiding the snowy parts on a lawn, and pushed through the doors of Penguin Palace to step onto a wide mat in a narrow hallway. "Wipe your feet," Evie whispered in the lowest voice imaginable. "Quietly." As Noah softly dried the soles of his shoes, Evie continued. "Penguin Palace is a popular place. There's going to be visitors on every side. Get as close as you can to them and try to hold your position for a full minute. Then move on to the next room. You'll have to sense where you stand in relation to one another. Reach out with your fingers if you need to. Don't talk, unless you're in a corner away from people." When Noah sensed that everyone was on the move, he walked into a long room along the first side of the aquarium. A family of 5 stood against the glass wall, their gazes fixed on penguins swimming through the channel of water. Someone brushed against his shoulder, and he realized the specters were moving to the back of the exhibit. He inched forward, feeling around him to ensure the other scouts were doing the same. As he stopped directly behind the family, someone gently bumped each of his sides, and he realized his friends were near. In front of him, a young boy with big dimples reached up and clapped his palm against the glass as a penguin swam by. Noah waited and counted the seconds. He realized he was holding his breath. He was so perfectly still that he became conscious of his own body, the weight of his head, the pull of his arms, the dangle of his fingers. As he silently counted 32, a noise came from the back of the room. Clink! It had been one of the specters, no doubt, and no doubt making the noise on purpose. The mother looked around. Her gaze landed right on Noah, who felt his muscles tense. He didn't move, or breathe. Could the woman see him? Could she somehow make out his ghostly shape? Worry erupted in Noah as he felt a chameleon move to a new spot on his shoulder. Had it marked him? The mother's eyes seemed to burrow into him. Pressure built in Noah's chest, and his heart began to tap against his sternum like something wanting out. The woman frowned, puzzled, and then turned to watch her son smile at the sign of a new penguin. One of the scouts tugged Noah's sleeve and pulled him away from the aquarium and toward the end of the room. In a corner, Richie whispered, "I practically pooped in there." "That," Evie whispered, "that was nothing." "It sure felt like something to me," Ella said. Evie dropped the topic by saying, "Everyone here?" Each of the scouts whispered yes. "Good," Evie said. "Let's go again." Noah felt Evie brush past him, and he turned to follow the group. Along the second side of the aquarium, an elderly couple stood about 10 feet away from the glass, and Noah walked toward them. He stopped no more than 3 feet away and stared at their profiles. The woman had wispy gray hair, and the man had a bald head speckled with age spots. Both wore thick glasses and jackets 2 months ahead of the season. After a few seconds, the man raised an almost steady finger at a penguin speeding past, and the woman giggled and clapped her hands twice without making any sound. He turned to his wife and leaned in for a quick kiss on her cheek. Noah suddenly realized how weird it felt to be watching them. He was seeing the couple as they saw each other, without the world around. He had invaded a private moment. Being a specter was more than being a ghost. It was being a spy. With a rush of shame, Noah looked away. It wasn't right to be watching people, not without their awareness. He focused on an overweight penguin as it waddled to the end of the channel, splashed into the water, and torpedoed away, its flat flippers stroking at its sides. After a few seconds, one of the scouts tapped his shoulder and Noah walked off. In another private corner, Evie whispered, "Nice. 2 more left. Go." In the third room, a family of 6 stood near the aquarium, their attention on the underwater parade of penguins. The 4 children were about 2 years apart, the youngest a toddler with a blue pacifier between his lips. He was sitting up in a stroller, grunting his excitement. Cabinets with items and information about penguins were on display throughout this room. Noah weaved between them. Once he was several feet past the last cabinet, a low, ripping sound came from behind him, and his muscles clenched. The noise had been unmistakable. A zipper. When he glanced back, the corner of the display cabinet glinted, and when Noah focused there, he saw a zipper, the rectangular pull tab, and a few inches of metal teeth and surrounding cloth. One of the scouts must have snagged a portal pocket on the cabinet. He saw the entire family was looking that way. Even the toddler was leaning to one side of the stroller. The woman suddenly pressed her fingers to her cheeks and screamed. Noah looked back again to see other dozens of chameleons climbing over the display cabinet, ghosting it. Dozens were pouring out of nowhere down toward the floor. He realized the portal pocket was open. The chameleons would keep coming and coming until it was closed. Behind Noah, someone else shrieked. It sounded like the young girl, but given what was happening, it could have very well been the father. The scout, whoever it was, managed to pull away from the cabinet, but then tripped. Noah could tell by how the chameleons fell. The pull tab of the zipper was now hanging by itself from the cabinet, which meant that it had been broken, leaving the portal wide open. 2 more screams from the family as hundreds of chameleons were flooding the room. They began to crawl up the other display cabinets and along ridges of the wall of the building. As they climbed along the edges of the aquarium, part of the foggy glass seemed to disappear. Penguins stood by with their beady black eyes fixed on all strange spectacles. Noah turned to the family again. The older 3 children looked ready to faint. The toddler merely looked around, uninterested. Someone hollered, "What are you doing?" to the scout on the floor, and Noah realized it had been Evie, still standing invisible at the back of the room. "Your pocket! Close it!" "I can't! It's broken!" came from a voice from the ground. Richie's. "Just hold it shut then!" The chameleons stopped coming, and Noah realized Richie had managed to seal the portal. But how badly had they compromised the secret zoo? The mother gasped. "That was hilarious!" Noah pulled down his eyebrows and stood very still. "Hilarious," one of the specters said. "Try pathetic." Noah was so confused that he became suddenly sure that he'd gone crazy, that the madness of the moment had melted his brain. The parents and the 3 older children started laughing. Only the toddler still seemed unamused. "That was freaking awesome!" one of the older children said. "Did you see the looks on the penguins?" "Yeah," one of the specters groaned. "Awesome. All right." After a brief pause, she added, "Girls, let's clean this mess up." From the back of the room came the sound of zippers opening, one after another. Evie made a clicking sound with her tongue, and then the walls and the floor blurred with movement as chameleons hurried for the open portals. As the chameleons and the scouts climbed down, the 4 friends became visible again. Richie was stretched out on his back. He was so perfectly still that he looked like someone who had died while making a snow angel. Noah realized that he'd crammed his hat into the top of his portal pocket to close it. "Richie!" Ella said. "You okay?" Richie continued to lie there, chameleons charging across his body. The oldest kid in the family, a boy with a dimpled chin and a bad crew cut, brushed past Noah and maneuvered up to Richie, careful to step in the open spots between the chameleons. He leaned over and broke out laughing. Ella pointed her thumb toward the boy and said to the specters, "I'm guessing this corn dog and the rest of his..." She made quotation marks around her fingers. "Family aren't from our neighborhood." Out of their camouflage, the specters walked toward the scouts. chameleons still clambering up their legs and squirming into their pockets. "Secret citizens," Evie said. "All the people are. A guard closed Penguin Palace as soon as we stepped in. We played it safe, and I'm glad we did." The boy with the crew cut was still laughing. "Why don't you make like a trait?" Ella said to him. The boy looked over to Ella, and through his laughter said, "And leave?" Ella crossed her arms and lifted her eyebrows. "No, find a sawmill." The boy stopped laughing and his smile went flat. He hurried back over to his parents, or at least the people posing as them. Ella grabbed Richie's jacket and hoisted him to his feet. Chameleon slid down his front and peppered the floor. She corrected his wardrobe with a tug here, a pull there. Then she grabbed the sides of his head and forced his gaze onto hers. "You okay?" Richie nodded. Once the last of the chameleons had portaled through the Spectre's pockets, Jordan walked over to the display cabinet and worked the pull tab of the broken zipper free. Then she offered it to Richie. "You'll want to fix this." "Thanks," Richie said. He plucked his hat free and then slipped the tab into his pocket. Then he remembered the portal and reached in after the zipper piece. Evie screamed, "Richie! No!" Richie pulled back his arm and flung as many as a dozen chameleons into the air. As they landed, they took off in different directions. He held his hand in front of his face. His fingers looked like pieces of chalk. Evie jumped a few steps forward, saying, "You okay?" Color seeped up into Richie's flesh. Within seconds, he was back to normal. "What happened?" Megan asked. Evie said, "His hand. It portaled." "I could feel it," Richie said. "On the other side of the portal. I could feel my hand. Chameleons. They were crawling all over it." "You sure you're okay?" Richie practiced bending his knuckles and turning his wrist. I think so." His gaze settled on his wrist. "My watch. It's gone." "The chameleons. They stripped it off." "But it was my favorite one." Ella said, "That plastic watch with Boba Fett on it? Seriously? Didn't you get that thing from a gumball machine?" This seemed to irritate Richie. As he forced his hat back on, he said, "No, I get gumballs from a gumball machine." "Guys," Evie said, "you can't break your zippers, and you can never, ever reach into the portals." "So where did his hand go?" Ella said. "The secret zoo? I get that, but we're in the secret zoo." Evie frowned. "You really want to know?" Everyone nodded but Richie, who was doing just the opposite, his bushy pom-pom wobbling around. "Okay," Evie said. "I'll show you tomorrow." And I'll stop the video there, ending chapter 9. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope to see you guys in our continuation of the Secret Zoo Raids and Rescues, and we'll be continuing with chapter 10 next time. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please take good care of yourselves and be safe. Bye.